We need more Republicans. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News. That's a message from President Trump speaking at the Nevada GOP convention in Las Vegas, blaming Democrats for a number of problems.
We're dealing with a group of people that don't want to approve anything. If I said, as an example, if we gave them everything they wanted, they would say, don't approve it.
The president continuing to blame Democrats for the current immigration issues.
Being weak on the border, which is therefore allowing tremendous crime to come into our country, they think that that's a good issue for them. I don't think being weak on the border, being pathetically weak on the border, I don't think that's a good issue.
A few hundred people gathered outside where the president spoke to protest his immigration policies. President Trump also headlining a fundraiser for Nevada Senator Dean Heller, who's the only Republican senator seeking re-election in that state. Protests also in McAllen, Texas today over immigration. Some of the protesters tried to block a government bus carrying immigrant children.
These children were not being separated from their parents. They were with their parents, being moved from one detention center to another. But certainly 96 degrees here in McAllen, Texas, and emotions over this issue running very high. For the past several days, we've seen a number of politicians filter through the Rio Grande Valley. Today we saw a number of Democratic legislators, more than 20 of them, trying to tour these facilities, get a sense of the conditions on the ground. One of their main questions is there a main list, a master list of these children? About 2,000 of them still separated from their parents.
Fox's Steve Harrigan. Crews in northwest Iowa are scrambling to clean up a Burlington Northern Santa Fe train derailment that dumped crude oil into floodwaters. Officials trying to get a handle on the extent of the spill and its cause. The train was carrying oil from Alberta, Canada to Oklahoma. Fox News, fair and balanced. The Justice Department says it has given House Republicans new classified information related to the Russia investigation. A spokeswoman for House Speaker Paul Ryan says the DOJ has partially complied with multiple requests from the House Intelligence and Judiciary Committees. South Carolina Republican congressional candidate Katie Arrington is recovering from injuries after she was seriously hurt in a car crash. House Majority Whip Steve Scalise.
My prayers are with Katie and with Jackie Goff, who was the driver in Katie's car. The person who injured both of them was driving the wrong way. The other driver, from what I've heard, is deceased. My prayers are out to all of them. We're pulling for Katie and Jackie to make a recovery, but right now it's early and it's really unfortunate.
Days ago, Arrington defeated incumbent Congressman Mark Sanford in the Republican primary. Authorities do confirm that she was the passenger in a car that was struck by one going the wrong way. The driver of that car died at the scene. Charges filed in the shooting death of two sheriff's deputies in Kansas.
A 30-year-old inmate facing capital murder charges in the shooting deaths of two sheriff's deputies in Kansas City, Kansas. Wyandotte County District Attorney Mark Dupree says Antoine Fielder overpowered deputies Patrick Rohrer and Teresa King June 15th when he was being transported to the courthouse in Kansas City.
Based off of the evidence that we have from the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department and the detectives that are on the case, we do not have reason to believe that there was anyone else that was involved concerning this matter.
Dupree says Fielder was shot during the altercation with the deputies. He has an extensive criminal history. Lisa Lacera, Fox News.
Police in Ethiopia say 6 people have been arrested and are under investigation after a deadly explosion at a huge rally for the new prime minister. At least one person died, more than 150 hurt. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News Radio.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Ron Harters, on the Chi-Town Expat Show. And today we have a guest. And we didn't guess wrong this week. Anyway, it's Sam Stone from Sal DeCicio's office. Hello, Sam. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you, Ron.
Great. And why don't you start us off and tell us a little bit about yourself? And then we'll get into some of the current issues.
All right. Well, like you said, I'm the Chief of Staff in Phoenix City Councilman Sal DeCicio's office. So on the day-to-day there, I basically run a point on all his efforts at Phoenix City Hall. But I am also a partner in a large national consulting firm. We do door-to-door outreach primarily in the big swing states, Michigan, Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Well, as long as you're not in Miami in the summer, it is.
Well, or Phoenix, I guess. Yeah.
I'll take our dry heat any day of the week.
Well, I can understand that. We just got a Facebook note from somebody who lives up in Harvard, Illinois, which is right on the Wisconsin border. And they had 6 inches of rain last week, and then the temperature turned to 90-something degrees. So
So right now they're taking a steam bath.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you.
No, just walking out the door.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. When you need a shower 3 steps from your door, it's not the place for me.
No, that's true. Okay. Anyway, all right. So, I guess one of the big deals these days in the city is the south extension of the light rail.
South Central Light Rail Extension.
Yeah, and I've been reading some of the the neighborhood.
4 lanes, no train. Yeah, this sucker is $1 billion boondoggle that nobody on that line wants.
Right.
You've got 5,000 residents of South Phoenix who have signed a petition and said, do not bring this here. And the city is going forward on cramming all that rail line down their throats no matter what they do.
Oh, and with only 2 lanes of traffic, one in each direction.
Yeah, anyone who's been on South Central at any time of day, much less rush hour, you think about what that's going to do. Every time they put in one of these light rail lines, they promise that it's going to reduce traffic, it's going to reduce congestion, it's going to have all these wonderful greenhouse gas emissions reducing effects, and it does none of that because most people don't ride it. Our ridership is down 18% over last year, month over month.
Really?
Yeah. Nobody wants to be on the thing because it's full of homeless people. It smells terrible. We have violence and stabbings on it on a weekly basis. You want to get on that thing at 10 o'clock at night? I don't.
No. I rode it once out to Mesa, I believe, and just once. And the car was empty except for my friend and myself, for most of the ride. And the rest, for the little time that somebody else was on it, they were really vagrants and hobos.
Yeah. I mean, would you believe this? Here's how much sense light rail makes. Light rail takes up 15% of our public transit budget at the city of Phoenix, provides rides for 1% of our passengers.
Well, that's outrageous. I'm from Chicago. And Chicago has a great rail system.
I'm from Boston, Ron. Same thing.
Yeah. We've got the subway, we've got the elevated, we've got, all that. And people, it's jammed all the time.
It's fantastic.
But there's very little crime on board because it's pretty well watched by the police.
Right.
Okay. And they have plainclothesmen that keep a good eye on things.
And you got to pay and go through a turnstile.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you're in trouble.
That's right. And here in Phoenix, when we realized that about 20, 25, maybe 30, it might be half of our riders were not paying, what did we do? We painted lines on the ground at the station that says you can't stand here unless you paid.
That's... What, are these people going to the schools today or something? Because that certainly sounds like...
Well, I do believe they're going to school, but it's on the shorter bus.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, that's... it's nobody in South Phoenix really... There's a few people I see, but for the most part... Nobody really wants it.
No, I mean, there's a few people. You're going to have some folks anywhere, but this community has really come together and said very clearly they don't want this thing. They don't want the traffic it's going to bring. But more importantly, look at everywhere the light rail's gone. And look, I as a development and a Republican and a guy who likes to see economic growth can see the benefit in this. But everywhere the light rail goes, the businesses that are there go out of business while it's under construction. Big developers come in, they buy up that land, they sit on it for a few years, let the light rail get finished being built out, and then they put up a giant multi-use office tower, commercial building, that kind of thing.
Or apartments.
Or apartments, and yeah, I mean, and that's great for us at the City of Phoenix for our revenue, but it doesn't help the people of South Phoenix. They're not going to be able to afford to live in those apartments. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be able to afford to eat at those restaurants the way they can at Pete's Fish and Chips and all the other great restaurants that are down there that are scaled to the economics of the area. And you want to grow an area, you want to create opportunity, this isn't how you do it. This is how you just drive the people out and replace them with someone else.
Yeah, yeah. And all those people coming from California.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have posh, nice homes for them, aren't we? And somewhere they can vote for all their liberal friends, and we're building it for them right on the backs of the residents of South Phoenix.
Exactly. Yep. Well, anyway, that's the. What else is going on in the city that's.
Well, a ton going on right now, obviously, because as probably a lot of your listeners may know, we had our Mayor Stanton resign, step down. So now you have a really unique situation where you have a 4-4 council, or an 8-person council, and you have the possibility of a lot of 4-4 votes, and that's what's been happening. And the big thing, if you saw it, was our budget, for the first time in history, got voted down last week.
Ah.
The first time ever, the City of Phoenix budget has been voted down by the City Council, and they have to do something, according to the city charter, by July 1st. They have to have a balanced budget. Well, we call it balanced. Let's be honest, it's a lot of gimmicks.
Yeah, yeah.
But they have to do that, and right now, that is big drama there. So you have an interim mayor in Thelda Williams who appears to have totally lost control. You have a city manager who has failed his most basic responsibility. The city council is in total turmoil, and anyone who knows Sal DiCiccio knows that he is absolutely loving it.
Well, I don't know Sal personally, but I've seen some of the things that he has to say, and I get his email every daily, whatever he's sending out. So I understand where he's coming from, and I'm quite sure that he's enjoying it.
When you're one of 2 conservatives on what is normally a 9-person council, you can't win by votes.
No.
You've got to win by public opinion. You've got to force the other council members to do what they would not want to do otherwise.
Right.
And that's what he does over and over and over again.
Now, I noticed one thing. Nowakowski's on this council, right?
Yep, Michael Nowakowski.
Yeah, isn't he? He's my committeeman.
Okay.
Okay, or whatever they
Your
call
council member.
Council member. He seems to be coming around a little bit.
We've actually, in our office, we have a very good working relationship with Councilman Nowakowski. He's a Democrat, but he's not an ideological Democrat.
Okay.
He's a city Democrat in that he's generally pro-growth and pro-development, but he's mostly on the side of his residents. What they want, he'll listen to them and he'll do what they want. And he's an effective operator and deal maker. Doesn't mean I agree with him on 60, 70, 80% of what he, would do, but we have a working relationship you can function with. It's a big deal. It's one of those things when you see that opportunity, when you see people who are able to work across the aisle like that and look at things not from a Republican or Democrat perspective, but just, well, this is what my citizens want. That's a pretty rare thing in politics. I credit him for that.
Yeah, that's good. I know he has his detractors.
He does, but at the same time, the guy has managed to navigate City Hall for a few years. He's ticked off the city manager and the previous mayor, which in my book is a good thing. Okay. He's not afraid to step on some toes. And the big problem at City Hall, people want to get into these left-right arguments. But the real battle at City Hall is between the entrenched powers that be from the city staff.
Ah, yeah.
And the unions.
Yeah, okay.
And everyone else.
All right. Well, we got to pay some bills, so we'll be back in a moment and give you a little more time to explain it all.
Let's bring in some dough and then we'll talk it all over.
Okay.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that Mommy and Daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Turn off the fake news and turn on Center Right Radio. Online now at centerright.live.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14,
41, 31, 13.
We took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted.
I
realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
And it's a beautiful day here at the Search Engine and Digital Marketing Race in beautiful Tempe, Arizona. The horses lining up at the gate now, waiting for the bell. And they're off. It's just a two-way race today between your business brand and your relentless competition. Oh, but wait a minute. You've just hired Warhorse Agency for your digital marketing and are quickly taking the lead in your market. Well, hang on to your seat, though. Your competition started their own Google AdWords pay-per-click campaign and are trying to catch up to you now. Good for you, though. They have no idea what they're doing. But don't worry yet. Your digital marketing jockey at Warhorse Agency tirelessly regains the lead with a great viral Facebook ad as well as your own Google SEO and pay-per-click campaign ran by a Warhorse, true leading generating professional. Holy smokes, your business just got a major lead. You're on the first page of Google now, and as they approach the finish line, your business wins. Thanks, Warhorse Agency, for another smashing victory. Contact us today for your free digital marketing evaluation. Visit us at www.gowarhorse.com today.
You're listening to America's favorite political discussion on Center Right Radio.
Okay, we're back, and here's Sam Stone again, and he's going to be talking to us about some of the wonders of city government. So, Sam, it's up to you.
Yeah, the 7 wonders of the underworld, Rob.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's really amazing what you see going on at City Hall, because the difference, people don't recognize that the real power at City Hall isn't the politicians, it's the city professional staff backed by the city unions. And of course, they're in business together because they're one and the same, right? And they're the ones that are supposed to negotiate with the politicians what their salary and pay and all this is. And it's a situation where the cart doesn't drive the horse. The cart is whipping the horse silly. And that's happening in government all across the country. That's why we spend 30 to 70% more in direct cash before you even get to the benefits for every city and federal state employee in this country than they do if you have a person doing the exact same thing out in the private sector.
Oh, yeah. I've noticed that. And I also noticed that the budget process in government is just awful.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite of what any sane organization would do.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, when you're doing any business out there, you start with, what do I need to get my doors open to do the basic things I need to do? So in our case, that's police, fire, roads.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very basic. Public transportation, right? Water. That's it. That's our basic functions.
Right.
And you look around here, we got water mains popping up through our streets, running water all over the place. Our streets are crumbling. We are 1,000 officers short of where we need to be. We're at the point with our fire department where our response times are putting lives in danger because they can't get to heart attack victims and stroke victims fast enough anymore. We're not doing any of those things the right way. And yet we can run out and find $1.5 million a year to throw at a Hispanic cultural center. I mean, I love Hispanic culture as much as the next person, but do it in a private business. Do it in a nonprofit. Go out and raise the money if that's what you want to do, or do it the way there's a great one in San Diego that they did in an old mall. That's a business basically, but it also has a cultural space for people to do all the kinds of things they're talking about that we're going to pay $1.5 million a year for.
Yeah, well, I know how that goes. I was in the Air Force and I was a what do they call them? Accounting technician.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, in Great Falls, and came the end of the year, and they had to buy for the budget,
mm-hmm.
and we bought 10,000 hammer handles. Not hammers, just handles.
Well, at least you can burn them for firewood.
Well, yes, but at $9 a piece.
Expensive firewood.
Yes, and this was in the late 50s. Okay? And we had to buy them to use up the budget so that we would get our budget the next year. We wound up selling those back to the guy that we bought them from for 90 cents a piece.
Of course we did.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. No, I mean, this is what we see all the time, right?
Yeah.
And, the basic problem in government is that we budget backwards. We budget from what did we spend on this last year. And so that's how you end up. I have a good friend who ran for office some years ago, who was an Air Force pilot with experience in Afghanistan, was one of the first pilots to land at Bagram. And, with his squadron there for several weeks, they're living in tents and, got a chain link fence up around them and for protection, that kind of thing. He goes, rotates home. Budget year ends. Next time he goes back, now they got beautiful, nice barracks and all this built out. And then they've got a Dairy Queen. And he goes, well, how did we get a Dairy Queen? Well, the budget had money left over in it, so we had to spend it somehow. Came back for a third rotation. A couple of years later, they've got a movie theater. They've got a movie theater with 12 screens. They've got 17 different restaurants. They've got all this stuff. It's all built on the U.S. Air Force dime, right? Why? Because each year the budget keeps going up and up and up, and they got to keep spending it. So what are they doing? They're building an American city in the middle of Afghanistan.
Oh yeah, well it's outrageous, and we wonder where did a $21 billion or $1 trillion deficit come from?
Yeah, it's same place that we're going to spend $30 billion on building our light rail system here. The $30 billion to build that light rail system.
That's outrageous. Yeah.
And for that amount of money, Uber could take every person in Phoenix everywhere they need to go for the next 30 years.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and nobody knows what transit looks like with all these new automated vehicles and everything coming. So, but government goes ahead, right?
Right.
I mean, there's no point in building any kind of fixed line transportation right now because you don't know. The biggest cost in buses is the driver and the insurance and for them, right? That's the biggest cost. It's more than the bus. So we replace that. We take that out. Now, how much cheaper is bus transportation? So nobody knows what's going to happen, but yet we act like we do.
Yeah.
And we spend like we do. And then they're wrong anyway.
Well, in Chicago, they put up buses that used electric buses.
Mm-hmm.
And all they did was run an electric line over the street.
Yep.
And the bus could
works fine, doesn't
go
it?
2 lanes, different, and do everything it wanted to do.
Well, we've got a problem, Ron, when Phoenix is doing things more expensively and inefficiently than Chicago.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
I think that's probably the best indicator you can have, right? When
Oh,
Chicago is beating you on efficiency, boy, you're really in the gutter.
Absolutely. That's true. Because who's running Chicago but the Democrats, and how long? For how long? And, oh my God.
I mean, but that's the kind of thing you see, and, you look around what's going on at whether it's Phoenix City Hall or any of these other liberal cities around here right now. They're in a race to see how much money they can spend. They're loaded with record revenues. Phoenix is taking in more money than it's ever had, and yet we have to add $2 billion, $2.5 billion to our debt. Our taxpayers are going to have to pay to extend out our pension payments by another 10 years. So yeah, I mean, we owe a bunch of money for pensions that money hasn't been put aside. About $3 billion that we owe. And the city needs to pay it back over the next 20 years. So they decided, well, that meant they had to pay an extra $17 million this year. And so they decided that was too much. So they would extend the payments from 20 to 30 years. And by doing that, they added $2.1 billion in additional costs. It's just like doing the minimum payments on your credit cards, right, Ron? So to save $17 million, not even save, but just not pay $17 million this year, we're going to charge our citizens $2.1 billion.
Well, it's not coming out of their pocket.
No.
So what do they care?
Well, they don't, clearly.
Yeah, and it's the holding of the money for pensions should be a criminal offense.
It is. It absolutely should be. We make these promises, we have to deliver on them, period.
Right.
I don't care anyone out there says, well, they're too much and they should be cut or this, that, and the other. Sorry. No. Once you make a promise, you deliver on your promises. If you want to change the rules for new hires, you do that, and we've been doing that.
Uh-huh.
But you've got to pay as you go.
Right.
You've got to pay up front as you go.
Exactly.
And for decades, this is why all these cities, this pension bomb is hanging over every city in Arizona virtually. It's hanging over just about every city in this country. It's hanging over every state. And we keep pushing it off. And the problem is going to explode on us. When we get to the point when Phoenix has to shell out $500 million in a year for unfunded pension liability, where are we going to come up with that money?
You're not.
They couldn't come up with an extra $17 million this year.
Right.
So what are we going to do when it?
Well, I know my wife has got an Illinois retired teacher's pension, but they are also, the state police are in that same pension fund.
Mm-hmm.
And they have not allowed the politicians to give away the money. So their pension fund is funded
right
100%.
And yet the public works guys there are not in the same fund.
Right.
And they've already had their pensions cut once and are at risk of it again.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a shame, really, that the workers who are waiting for these pensions or whatever are going to be hurt with the problem after
well, you know, they're going to get burned by the very people they elected.
Right.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. Let's be honest about it here.
Yeah.
Is they elected all those folks. It's the unions that have controlled the elections in Chicago and elsewhere, including here, for a long time. You know, they spent something like $1 million last time going after my boss here, because he's one of the few who isn't in their pockets at City Hall. They went after him, and they went after his wife and family.
Oh my!
I mean, yeah, they ran ads going after his wife. They're telling people all this garbage out there because they can't risk someone opening up the books, opening up the doors, bringing in the sunlight, and seeing how cozy these relationships that they've built are. I mean, that's the thing to understand about all this stuff government does. The momentum behind it has billions of dollars worth of backing.
Yeah, well, and I understand there's something else that with the money is the CAFRs, that's the certified annual financial reports.
Yep.
And those, if they ever got public.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're a joke, you know. I mean, look at it this way. The pension board managing our public safety pension retirement system here in Arizona managed to lose money on real estate last year.
Oh, my.
Well, here in Arizona. That's not even possible. I don't even know how you do that.
Right.
Unless you're basically handing out fat cat handout deals to your friends and insiders.
Well, that's probably what it is.
I mean, but literally, other than that.
Well, we got to pay some bills again, and we'll be back shortly.
You need some of these fat cat insiders to come over here.
Right.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that Mommy and Daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Turn off the fake news and turn on Center Right Radio. Online now at centerright.live.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14.
41, 31, 13. We
took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted.
I
realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
And it's a beautiful day here at the search engine and digital marketing race in beautiful Tempe, Arizona. The horses lining up at the gate now, waiting for the bell. And they're off. It's just a two-way race today between your business brand and your relentless competition. Oh, but wait a minute. You've just hired Warhorse Agency for your digital marketing and are quickly taking the lead in your market. Well, hang on to your seat, though. Your competition started their own Google AdWords pay-per-click campaign and are trying to catch up to you now. Good for you, though. They have no idea what they're doing. But don't worry yet. Your digital marketing jockey at Warhorse Agency tirelessly regains the lead with a great viral Facebook ad as well as your own Google SEO and pay-per-click campaign ran by a Warhorse, true leading generating professional. Holy smokes, your business just got a major lead. You're on the first page of Google now, and as they approach the finish line, your business wins. Thanks, Warhorse Agency, for another smashing victory. Contact us today for your free digital marketing evaluation. Visit us at www.gowarhorse.com today.
You're listening to America's favorite political discussion on Center Right Radio.
Hello again. We're back, and here's Sam again. And he's going to tell us a little more about some of the corruption going on in the government.
Well, thank you, Ron, once again. But, unfortunately, I could go on for days about this. It's every little thing that we do. I mean, you see what happened here in South Central where you had all these neighbors opposing this light rail line. They don't want it. The government's going to spend $1 billion. And they're going to go shove it down their throats because you got $1 billion worth of contracts to hand out to your friends, and nobody wants to give up that opportunity at City Hall. But it's so bad. These people come in, they demand a meeting in front of the City Council for them to consider their request to either go to 4 lanes or get rid of this thing. And the mayor says, yes, we're going to do that, and signs a sheet of paper. Here, this will be on the agenda. I'm ordering it right now. Discussion and action. And then the day of that meeting rolls around, and what is there? Discussion, no action. I mean, it's little things to big things, right? They thwart you at every turn. Their intent is just to preserve the system, to preserve the status quo. And any threat to that is going to be dealt with as ferociously as they possibly can. And it extends to everything we do. I mean, we've got a piece of land up on Camelback Mountain that is owned by some folks. Now, it's landlocked. It has no value. It has no reason for that piece of land to have anything on it. And there's no way, there's no roads that you can use to get to it, this, that, or the other. But these people, because they're in our water rights district, they know the system. They sue us. They demand water. So now we have to build a water pipe onto that property. Okay? Now, geologically, we can't bury that water pipe. So they sue us for not burying it. And the city now wants to pay them $800,000 to $1.2 million to buy this worthless land off of them, to stop them from suing for something that has no purpose in being there in the first place. And this is your government.
Oh, that's outrageous.
Yeah.
That's worse than the $9 hammer handles.
I mean, but this is the stuff that happens every day. We see this every day. I mean, so far this year on things, I'm not talking about things where you could say maybe this is valuable, I don't know if I agree with that or not kind of thing. I'm talking things that are ridiculous, like spending $325,000 on graphic design for a planning and development manual. Not for the manual, not for the text, not for the value in it, but to make it look pretty.
Oh my God.
When you add up those things this year, that's over $1.2 million so far this year that has been approved since December 1, or since January 1, that has been approved by this city council, that pushed by staff, that we've gone forward and done. Sal's voted against it. Jim Waring's voted against it. But you see, I mean, this is how ridiculous it is. And every week you get more of it.
Isn't there anything that we can do to preclude this?
Yes. I mean, first off, we've got to change the makeup of the city council.
Well, okay.
We got a chance, right? The mayor just resigned. He's running for the U.S. Congress seat that Kyrsten Sinema vacated. So now we've got an 8-member council, and come around November, we're going to appoint we're going to vote for a new mayor on the ballot. You're going to have 2 of the most liberal council members and 2 of the most staff-dedicated council members, Danny Valenzuela, Kate Gallego. They're leaving office here shortly to run for that mayor's seat. Well, first thing we need to do is stop both of them and elect Moses Sanchez.
Yes.
Right? Moses is a great candidate. Sal's endorsed him. Conservative, business owner, Navy background, everything you want to see. Not a union guy, not a giveaway guy. So let's get him in there.
Yeah.
And then let's get one of these 2 replacements, just one of the 2, with someone reasonable. Those are the first 2 steps we need to take.
Okay.
We've got to get someone into those 2 spots. Even if one of those 2 seats it's a Democrat you can work with, like Nowakowski, who's not crazy. Deb Stark, she's not crazy. She's a planning and development background, right? Get us someone like that. And then let's talk. Then we can actually do something. And then 2, you go to a zero-based budget.
Yes.
You start with the things that are most important. How many police officers do we need? How much equipment do they need? Okay, that's pool 1. How many miles of street paving do we need to do? That's pool 2. How many firefighters? Go down the list, and when you're out of money, stop.
Mm-hmm.
Stop. Because whatever comes after that isn't as important as everything before it that you're paying for.
That's right, yeah. Oh, no, that's absolutely right.
I mean,
yeah.
We need 1,000 more police officers. 1,000. Just to get back to have the same number of officers per 1,000 citizens that we had 20 years ago.
My God. We have grown a lot. But
we're growing crazy and we're not hiring.
Yeah.
We have authorization right now for 3,125 officers for a population of 1.5 million people over 524 square miles.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, you think about that. We've got communities where they might only have 1 or 2 patrol vehicles in that entire community for an entire shift. If you have one accident, there is no police coverage left available. They have to shift someone from another area, and then there's a cascade effect.
Oh, that's awful.
Our officers are being run ragged. They're being called in for extra duty shifts because someone gets sick. How do they fill in? They got to get somebody.
Yeah, that's oh, good God.
Yeah.
Well, and the zero-based budget is only the way to go.
It's the only thing you should do in government. I don't understand why any government is allowed to do anything but a zero-based budget.
Right.
Every year you start fresh. You start with your top needs, and once all the money's gone, you stop.
Right.
If that means no Hispanic Cultural Center, well, too bad. You know,
maybe they could put the money together themselves.
Absolutely, and I'll donate the first $20 bill.
There you go.
Absolutely, but I'm not gonna demand our taxpayers do it.
No.
Nobody else should either.
No. Well, and then this big all these lawsuits and so on that are being filed against the city, against the county, against the.
Well, I tell you, Ron, if you're short of cash, I recommend coming down and tripping on the door sill at City Hall, because our law department will roll over and hand you $50,000 faster than you can get up.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a good tip.
Yeah, you know, look, if you're short next month, just let us know. You know, break a leg, I guess.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. No, that's awful.
But that's what happens all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's. There should not be any of those lawsuits allowed either.
No, these frivolous lawsuits are ridiculous, and that's one of the things that really everything costs more in our society because of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because everything, you need insurance to protect yourself in everything. We add costs into everything we do because of that, and they're ridiculous and frivolous. We deal with them all week, all day long. We've got people who want to sue the city because a guy went out, murdered 2 people, and shot himself in the head. Literally, they want to sue the city for that. Because there were cops there when he shot himself in the head. This is the kind of stuff we get.
Well, when you come right down to it, I understand some of that because I've had some dealings with lawyers.
Yeah.
And the real name for those guys ought to be liars.
I have actually a lot of friends who are lawyers, but I think most of them would agree with you.
Yeah, it's amazing the number of schlemiel lawyers that there are in the country.
And now you're speaking my language, and yes.
I have one of my friends got a hold of a lawyer, and he charged her $20,000 to support her in a suit against her for elder abuse. And he went to the judge and tried to cut a deal for her where she would wind up on probation and not get it not guilty or whatever. And then he just gave the case to a 9-month
graduate,
graduate, and she didn't know what to do.
With my other business, obviously our consulting business, we hire a ton of people to go door to door throughout, all the states. And one of the guys we hired last year in Florida, he had 17 names. He uses different combinations of them to avoid background check problems, because what he does is every single year he gets hired with a firm like ours, works there for a few weeks, does some things to get himself fired, and then he sues them. And this is how he makes his living each year. And he has one of those giant law firms that's, he gives them a cut of his take, and every year they sue. And it's exactly what you're talking about. And fortunately, they do have all those young legal beagles on their staff, because we went and hired the best attorney we could lay our hands on. Now, this guy wanted $50,000 from us. We spent $65,000 defending the case, because we absolutely will not roll over and pay. We spent $65,000 defending a $50,000 case because we know that next year, this year, the year after, we're going to be sued again. The minute we hand out that check, you're going to be sued again. And then, but this is what happens at City Hall. Everyone knows. They settle. All these governments will settle all these lawsuits. All you got to do is sue these big corporations and claim you're injured, and a lot of them will settle. They've got to just stop settling. I mean, I can blame the lawyers, but at the same time, you got to blame the clients too.
Well, that's true. But it's amazing how corrupt the entire court system and
it's terrible.
The legal system is.
It's terrible. You know, and these guys sued us in Florida. The Florida State or federal court handles 10 times as many employment litigation lawsuits as the entire federal court in Los Angeles does. The federal court in Los Angeles has 10 times as many people in its area, right? But they've created this culture where they allow everybody to get forward with these suits and then everyone settles them. So there's this giant industry around this, right?
Oh, God.
I mean, and this is what you see everywhere you create these opportunities. And it's leech. It's leeches. They're taking money from everybody when they do that. But that's what we've created, and government feeds it because we pass laws that make this easier and easier to do.
Yes.
You know, I mean, this guy the fact that a guy who worked for me for less than 10 days sexually harassed 3 women and then went in and screamed at my client, the fact that that guy had some grounds to get into court in the first case is completely ridiculous, but we pass laws that allow him to.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's a shame, yeah. Well, there's not much you can do about it, I guess, except...
say no and keep fighting.
Yeah, and hope to change the law sooner or later.
Absolutely.
Well, we got about 30 seconds left, and we got to pay some bills, and we got another guest coming in, and you know her just as well as I do.
And enjoy her work.
Yeah, and Janet is coming, and she's a sweetheart.
We're looking forward to it. Three's a party.
All right, so we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, you want to get Janet?
Olivia, from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that Mommy and Daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger, from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Turn off the fake news and turn on Center Right Radio. Online now at centerright.live.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14...
41, 31, 13. We
took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted.
I
realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
And it's a beautiful day here at the search engine and digital marketing race in beautiful Tempe, Arizona. The horses lining up at the gate now, waiting for the bell. And they're off. It's just a 2-way race today between your business brand and your relentless competition. Oh, but wait a minute. You've just hired War Horse Agency for your digital marketing and are quickly taking the lead in your market. Well, hang on to your seat, though. Your competition started their own Google AdWords pay-per-click campaign and are trying to catch up to you now. Good for you, though. They have no idea what they're doing. But don't worry yet. Your digital marketing jockey at Warhorse Agency tirelessly regains the lead with a great viral Facebook ad as well as your own Google SEO and pay-per-click campaign ran by a Warhorse, true leading generating professional. Holy smokes, your business just got a major lead. You're on the first page of Google now, and as they approach the finish line, your business wins. Thanks, Warhorse Agency, for another smashing victory. Contact us today for your free digital marketing evaluation. Visit us at www.gowarhorse.com today.
You're listening to America's favorite political discussion on Center Right Radio.
Hello, we're back, and today we have another guest. And it's Janet Contreras, candidate for Congress in 2010, and now a writer.
Yep, I've got a book series coming out. It's called Royal Birthright. Basically, the books are Bible stories the way my grandmother used to tell them. And my grandmother didn't censor any of the Bible studies. All the sex and violence were in them. Newsflash, the Bible is not G-rated, people. And I didn't write a bunch of dirty books, but I also did not censor any of God's word in the books. Basically, the stories are the way my grandmother told them to us when we were teenagers and becoming young adults, when she wanted us to understand God's principles, God's expectations, and God's love for us. So the stories start from creation to just after the flood is where book 1 is, and it's told by the family patriarch, matriarch in the book, just like the way my grandmother would have told it to us. So.
Well, that sounds interesting. Yeah, really. And how many books are there going to be?
The series is 5 books. The second book goes through Moses. The third book goes through the establishment of the Jewish faith. The fourth book is the ministry of Christ and the early church fathers. And the final book is the church age and to the end, to eternity. I don't know there is no end, I guess.
Now, are you worried about stirring controversy? Because I love it. I mean, I love this because it's, I think, important to remember the Bible was written about real people living in a real time with all the venal sin of real people.
Humanity as it is now, has always been.
Yeah.
We're rotten to the core. If it were not for God's love and all the sacrifices He made to bring us salvation, there would be no reason to save any of us.
It's hard to remember that the way the Bible is talked about a lot of times. I love what you're doing.
Yeah. No, the books are great. I wish I had written them when my grandmother was still alive, because she would have loved the books. But I think what happens is we've lost that that passing on of stories in families. It's not done the way it was done before, and so I'm trying to preserve it for the future so that people can tell these stories again the way my grandmother would have told them.
Well, that's really interesting, and that is a fact that we have, as a people, lost the
storyteller culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's been a total loss for our entire culture, really.
Well, our current version of storyteller culture is somebody sticking an iPhone in their face on an ego trip, right? So
yeah.
I think there's a big Facebook. Yeah, I mean, we all benefit from those things, but we're all harmed by them. And
agreed.
I think you point out one of the really big things we've lost is the depth of our culture, the background.
Okay, well, that'll do it for today, and stay tuned for the Chips and Salsa show, and Janet will be a guest on their show today, too.
I will. Thank you for having me, Ron.
Okay, so have a nice week and enjoy yourself. And let's remember, Republicans, get off the couch. Okay, keep busy and get active.
We need more Republicans. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News. That's a message from President Trump speaking at the Nevada GOP convention in Las Vegas, blaming Democrats for a number of problems.
We're dealing with a group of people that don't want to approve anything. If I said, as an example, if we gave them everything they wanted, they would say, don't approve it.
The president continuing to blame Democrats for the current immigration issues.
Being weak on the border